us away in the midst of all of us. Because if there was a gospel reading I could have handpicked for this week, it would have been this one, the story of the Good Samaritan. Unfortunately, I think sometimes this gospel becomes a catchphrase, usually seen on the evening news when there's a car accident and people come to help, or someone who is in need is assisted by a stranger. The news panel behind the reporter spells out Good Samaritan. And when you hear that, part of me likes it because it's a nod to the gospel. But another part of me thinks that because it is so commonly used, it has become a catchphrase, we've really forgotten the power and the deep message that Jesus was trying to teach in the story. Why did the priest walk to the other side of the road? That's a joke. Why did he walk to the other side of the road? Why did the Levite walk by on the other side of the road? Ritual purity. See, to touch blood, or even have the cloak brushed against a man's skin accidentally, or to touch a drop of blood on the ground, would have made them ritually impure before God and according to the Jewish law of the time. And would have taken prayers and rituals and immense work to become pure again. But the truth is, why they moved to the other side of the road is meaningless. It doesn't matter why. What matters is that they did. What matters is that this bruised, suffering, possibly dying man was less important than something else. The fact that he was beautiful and irreplaceable in the eyes of God because he was human was ignored and stripped away. Why it was stripped away really doesn't matter. What matters is that he was seen as less and as insignificant despite his humanity. And so in the story, Jesus introduces this character, the Samaritan. As you probably already know, observant Jews and Samaritans had little respect for each other. Samaritans were in fact Jewish, but they were regarded by most observant Jews as third or fourth class. The one who is not supposed to see them as worthy. The one who is supposed to ignore and walk past, in fact, teaches the lesson that Jesus wants to show. That we are all our brothers and our sisters' keepers. But the one we dismiss as less, in fact, is as sacred as your own child, or your parent, or your spouse. The sin of the Levite and the priest was to dehumanize another person. The sin of many people in our country this week, the sins that have led to so much pain and lives torn apart in our country, is the exact same sin, lived out in a different way. Because I don't care who you are, what color your skin is, what color clothes you are wearing. If you are looking at another person and you do not see a human person sacred in the eyes of God, you have sinned. Jesus is telling us to begin to see as God sees. In everyone, especially those we see as the other. The same beauty you saw in your children the first time they took a step. The first time they grabbed your finger and squeezed it. The love that you feel for them when they sit and curl up in your lap before bedtime. That is the love that God sees for everyone. Whether at a traffic stop, or on an operating table, or in your office, or at a meeting. That's who we have to see. We must name our sin. A few weeks ago, the gospel passage was a man possessed by legion. And doctors and lawyers and construction workers dehumanized. The white community and the black and the brown and the Asian dehumanize others that are not like them. Christians and Muslims and Jews often see others as less than. It is a universal sin. It is the original sin of the United States, with the treatment of indigenous peoples here, with the treatment and the existence of slavery. It is our original sin, and we must name it to be healed from. But it is hard work to name it and to own it and to say I am partly responsible for it in how I live my life. Though I may not live in St. Paul or Baton Rouge or Dallas, I must own my own sin. That is hard work. To see others as beautiful when we see them first as the other is hard work. And we cannot do it without the grace of God. This country cannot heal without the grace of God. But until we are willing to stand up and name our sin, personally and as a nation, healing will elude us. Violence in all of its forms will continue. These events that we have seen this week will happen again. Because violence breeds violence. Until someone breaks the cycle, like the Samaritan, like we are called to do as Christians. We are not a people who don't know the way out. We know the story. Who is my neighbor? The one who is least like me. The one who I expect to reject and hurt me is the one who just may save me. We are a people of hope. Jesus told this parable to teach us to care for each other, that no matter who the other is, so that we could live in hope. And I saw the Good Samaritan alive and well this week in our world, despite the violence. People reaching out to others. We would expect them not to reach out to because they are the other. Diamond Reynolds, the woman whose boyfriend was shot and killed by a police officer in St. Paul, spoke about the officer killed in Dallas. And she spoke out against that violence. And she stated that no one should be torn from their families like that. When it would have seemed logical and understandable for her to see the police as the other or the enemy, she didn't. She had compassion for them and for their families who were grieving. There were pictures of Dallas police cars covered in flowers as a show of support. There are stories of people randomly coming up to the police officers in Dallas, shaking their hand and embracing them and offering them words of kindness. Those who were doing these things were folks who were black and brown as well as white. On any given day, the Samaritan and the man who was injured may have just walked past each other and ignored each other purposely. Maybe sneered, maybe even thrown unkind words to each other. Christ, the one who exposed uncomfortable complacency, to challenge people to change. Christ, the one who saw the beauty and the preciousness in every person, even those who were taking his life, enough to pray for them in that moment. This is who we are, who we're called to be. It's who and what Juliet and Shay are being baptized into. Christianity, which is radically nonviolent in a radically violent world. The reading today says that the Samaritan was moved with pity. Many translations of this story don't have the word pity, but translate it as compassion. And seeing someone suffering so deeply, he felt compassion. It is compassion, not legislation, that is the real answer. It is the gospel